Hi, this is Bob Gabordi, Executive Editor of the Tallahassee Democrat and Tallahassee.com. And I'm back again, this time with Paul Flemming, who is the editor of our state coverage, heads Florida Capitol Bureau, does a lot of stuff. And Paul, every time I've seen you lately, you've had these piles of paper, or you've been buried in computers and numbers and databases and saying, well, look at this number, look at that number. This week you're looking at pension and the Florida Retirement Association and projected cuts to it and some of the economic impact of that. Talk to me a little bit about how big is this? How many people are members? Who are they? How many of them live here?
Well, this is a big deal. You're talking about a very large retirement system, the Florida retirement system, and it's not just state employees. This is more than 500,000 people, 637,000 folks that are participants. About half of them are teachers in local school districts. About a fifth of them are workers for county governments. About a fifth of them are state employees. You've got police officers, sheriff's deputies, folks working over at the Capitol. It involves a lot of people, and it also is a big deal because it's a lot of money, and the current political climate, talking about public pensions, it gets a lot of people riled up.
Right. Now, you wrote about maybe the one that gets people riled up the most, TK Weatherall's big number, but for the most part, we're not talking about people making big numbers here.
No. As I said in my column last week, TK's $213,000 a year pension benefit is an anomaly, and he earned it. There's a lot of ways that he earned it, which is all these details and papers that you see me going through. But the average beneficiary, and there are about 337,000 annuitants, beneficiaries of the Florida retirement system.
Annuitants?
Annuitants.
Yeah.
Don't say that in a bar or you won't be talking to anybody.
That's right.
But most of them don't get anything like that. The average regular class benefit is about $17,000 a year, and that's not a ton of money.
No, it's not. But what's out there? What are they looking at? What are the different plan levels from each of the groups?
Well, as I mentioned, the political climate, changes in the economy, this is a big program, and it has benefits that are now out of step with what happens in the private sector. There are lots of reasons for that. I'm not saying yay or nay on those. When people say, how come they get that, we don't get that, I often think, how come you don't say, they're getting that, why don't I get that? You can turn it on its head.
Sure.
But at any rate, all those participants, all of their retirement benefits are 100% paid by the government that they work for, the school board or the state or the county that we went through.
There are three different plans out there right now.
There are.
So, I'm assuming it's a foregone conclusion that there will be changes made to the plan.
Stuff is going to change. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt about that.
And Governor Scott came out with his budget proposal with the most sweeping plan that would have required everyone to all public employees, those teachers, cops, county workers, state workers, to pay 5% of their salaries. That's not going to happen. It's not going to be that sweeping. The House has a plan which could be described as the Scott Plan Light. It has a 3% contribution requirement. Some of the other details of that are a little different. Also, I want to point out that this is a really big deal. All the benefits that anybody who's an active participant now have earned, or any current beneficiary, annuitant, to throw more people away from this,
yeah.
They're going to keep
I just heard people turning off their computers.
That's right.
But
they're going to keep what they got. Under any of these plans, that's not going to change. But going forward from July 1, it is going to change how things go. The Senate plan is it's mostly tweaks. It doesn't and it's quite complicated. On the subject of employee contributions, first, if the Florida retirement system is judged to be actuarially sound, has covered its liabilities at 100%, future liabilities at 100% or more, then there's no contribution required. If it's below that, which it was last year, however, the $124 billion fund has made a lot of gains, as all of us in our 401ks have if we are in the S&P index. At any rate, the market's coming back, they're doing better. I'm no expert on that, but there's a possibility they get back up to 100% of their funding liabilities, future liabilities. At any rate, if they're below that, then the Senate plan would not affect the vast majority of participants in this. It would be only those who earn $40,000 or more with a 2% contribution required, and $75,000 or more a year, a 4% contribution requirement. It's an indication of the pay of public workers that the vast majority of folks wouldn't be hit by that.
So I'm calling this part one of, would be an ongoing look at some of the different proposals out there. You know, looking at the salary proposals and cuts to that and what impact that would have. Going to look at local and county government salaries and that sort of thing over a period of time. In your time as a journalist, have you ever been so immersed in so many numbers and you know, that where numbers replace policy almost, as, you know, we got to get to that number regardless of the policy?
Well, no. I mean, this happens all the time up here. It was in years gone by, taking real deep looks at insurance. Talk about crazy numbers. You get into an actuarial soundness and all the projections on storm damage. That's crazy. Anything up here, there's a lot. It's complicated, but this is hitting people's pocketbooks. That makes a big difference. For those who are not participants or not public employees, it's a big chunk of money. The state pays governments pay $3.7 billion into this system every year. The House plan would save about $1 billion for all those government levels. So taxpayers, participants, this is big deal, and so you have to get down in the dirt to understand what it's going to do, particularly if you're a participant who's going to be hit by it. But anybody, this is an important policy thing, and saving that money is really important in this, and that's why it may come closer to the House plan to get some savings out of that in a tough budget year.
Right, and it's just a big number, you know, to get to.
Well, but it is a big number. It's $1 billion, man.
You're right,
is $1 billion.
Right. Anyway, you look at
That's
that,
right.
That's a big number. So, Paul, you're going to explain this to me in terms that move beyond the numbers. So, a simple guy like me grew up on a farm, you know, I'm not very smart. I'll understand this.
Well, I hope so. Here's what we want to offer on Sunday is for the participants, and it's particularly Tallahassee Democrat readers, a lot of participants in the Florida retirement system and a lot of people worried about what it's going to do. So we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of some of the details of the plan. So you can look, here's where it is now, here's what the House plan is, the Senate plan is, what the governor proposed, to have a real clear, easy-to-consume idea of what that's going to be. And we'll have an introduction to this, a story. It's going to say, I hope in real simple ways, what the deal is and what we can expect to happen.
One last question, then I'll let you go and get back to your writing. But, you know, I can't help but think of this as raising $1 billion, or whatever it ends up, in revenue for the state. How is that any different than a tax?
Well, that's the argument. The elected officials that represent the Big Bend and the capital area would certainly say this is balancing the budget, some of them, I'll say.
Right.
Because there are some of them that would not say this, but balancing the budget on the backs of public employees. And there's some legitimacy to that. There's no doubt that the state is going to benefit from these changes by reducing benefits. Then the question becomes, why shouldn't they be sharing the burden of that with what is, by proponents of change, say, are really sweet benefits? And I think that we can agree that there's some pretty good benefits there. The question is, why are you going to change this now? Why only this sector of folks making the sacrifice to balance the budget, as opposed to the corporate tax breaks that the legislature is going to approve this year without a doubt? Tax incentive programs are going to be out there. That's what politics is about.
All right. Look forward to reading it.
Thanks, Bob.